Good afternoon everyone. A lovely chap called Tony has dropped off his rather large pair of Goodmans Magisters, and they're quite an old speaker, I think 60s, early 70s, and yeah, they are monsters. So height wise, 27 inches, 69 centimeters, width 20 inches, so 51 centimeters, and depth 14 inches, 36 centimeters, and they're quite good really. They got a massive overall 15-inch woofer, and then a small mid-range 3.5, 4-inch, and a little inch silk dome tweeter. And yeah, unfortunately they're feeling very sorry for themselves. They're quite tired, and we need to give them a bit of a revamp really. Tidy them up, give them a good clean, clean back the teak and re-oil them, sort out the front here. But the main issues is sound, obviously. I suspect the crossover components are completely out of tolerance now. Also on the woofer here, the suspension is kind of a plastic self-adhesive sheet that's over the whole thing and then shrunk into the cone. Nice and airtight because of that, but it's come away from the center here, so the dust cap is loose. So what I'll try and do is from the back apply glue to the cone, and then which I'm sure is paper, and then heat this gently to soften it up and push it back in, and then I'll put something over that to hold it in. Also with the mid-range, the paper cone has come detached from the plastic surround. This, I'm pretty sure these are a sealed mid-range, so you can't get behind, so gluing that back in is going to be fairly tricky. The tweeter's looking good. The tweeter on the other one has been rotated for some reason, but the other speaker, the woofer's good, the mid-range looks fine. We've just had the tweeter turned around. So yeah, good clean up cosmetically, repair the woofer, repair this mid. I'm going to put up the measurements of both speakers together now. And what you should have seen looking at those is that the woofers play pretty similar, and so do the tweeters, but it all goes crazy in the mid-range. And that's obviously going to be partly because of this mid-range is coming apart, and also I suspect the capacitors, being 50 odd years old, 60 odd years old, are really out of tolerance now. They'll be electrolytic. The material inside would have dried out and they would have gone way out of tolerance. Also with spectral decays I did, which I'll put in now. That points to all sorts of ringing and issues there, but yeah, it's going to be nice to give these a sympathetic refurb, damn good clean up, and see what's going on. I have had a pair of these before, many years ago, way before I started doing these YouTube videos, and if memory serves me right, this 15-inch woofer doesn't have any form of filter on it. It's just allowed to play wild all the way up. There's no chance of this producing high frequency, and it's so, that cone's so heavy, it's just not going to be able to do any of that, so it kind of naturally rolls off anyway. And then we're probably bringing in a mid and a tweeter, so it'll be interesting to see how that's set up. But yeah, if I spin it round carefully, hopefully you can see the back. Yep, so what I'm going to do, this is kind of a brown paint. I'm going to repaint this, and these little binding posts, same with the Celestion Ditton speakers, you have these, and they'll only accept a teeny tiny wire, and you've also got the old-fashioned speaker plug in there as well. So I'm going to change these. These are very magnetic as well, I would have thought. Yeah. So we'll change those two. And then at least you'll be able to get a cable in there easily, or a banana plug in there. So yeah, let's take them apart and see what we find inside. Okay, so I can kind of just get you in here, so we'll take these out and see what we find. Right, so take the tweeter out first. Someone's been in here before, I suspect, by the look of these screws. It's all a bit sticky around there. Almost like this silk dome is doped and it's began to come off. Right, okay. Right, so there's our tweeter. So Goodman's dome radiator DT3 8 ohm. Okay, so what I'm going to do, because I'll be resoldering these, I'm going to clip the cables off, and obviously that way, whilst they're marked positive, oh, these are just, they're not even soldered on. They're just put through the holes and twisted round. That one's soldered. Oof. Yeah, that's going to cause an issue. Okay. Nice to find problems. Let's have a look at this mid-range. This has been out. So one loose screw. Yeah, interesting to see how this has been cut away like that. Maybe they're not the original tweeters. That's interesting. I'll have to see if I can find original pictures of these and see if they were the original tweeters. They look like it. Right, mid-range. So this is, as you can see, a sealed back to it. So it won't be playing down very low because of that. So yeah, hopefully I can glue that, because I think otherwise it's okay. So yeah, again, what I'm going to do, whilst this is marked positive, so at the moment it looks like both tweeter and mid are connected in phase, unless they're reversed at the crossover. Yep, so there we go. Mid-range, nice big foam gasket. Okay, and then we'll get the socket set and take out our woofer. Right, so these are all Imperial, and that is an 1132 socket, 1132ths. Okay, let's clip those off again. And there we go. Very nice. Okay. So we've got a ton of foam inside here. Right, I think before we go any further I need to put tape on these so I know what's going where. So LF. HF. And our mid. Okay. Alright, lots of foam in here. Interesting. I don't know if you can see that. So inside here is two battens with some of this, I can't remember the name of it, it's just full of holes, almost like, kind of like a bass trap inside. And there's our crossover. So what I'll do, I'll take that out and we'll take a close look at that. Right, so a quick look inside the cabinet. The back is chipboard. The sides are also chipboard, but they're veneered on both sides. And then we've probably got a teak moulding around here, because you can see a joint line there. So yeah, and the front baffle is chipboard as well. Not any bracing really, other than this kind of trap arrangement at the back. So yeah, there we go. Right, so this is the crossover taken out, and straight away we can see that the woofer is indeed connected full range. So that is seeing everything from the amplifier. Looks like we've got a couple of air core inductors and 3 capacitors in there. Right, quite a interesting circuit. So here's our positive, and we come in on this, into this capacitor here, through that, and we run out to our tweeter. Yep, so the tweeter is connected out of phase, and then we have an inductor down to ground. So we've got a second order arrangement on the tweeter, and then we come into this capacitor first with a with this inductor here down to ground. So a first order on the high pass part of the mid-range circuit, and then we come out of there into this inductor, and then we have a capacitor down to ground. So we've got a second order on the low pass. So yeah, so we're with the mid-range controlling the lower frequencies and the upper frequencies, and then with the tweeter we're just controlling how low it can play. So a pretty standard arrangement there, with our woofer just playing wild, but given the size of that woofer and the weight of the cone, it's naturally rolling off probably at 500 Hertz, 600 Hertz anyway. So I can understand why they've done that, and I think that was one of the kind of things about these speakers, having that woofer running that way. Yeah, obviously works. So right, we'll take this apart. The inductors should be okay, but we'll test them. And the caps we are just going to replace, but we will check them. Okay, so that's the circuit. So woofer full range through a capacitor with an inductor down to ground on our mid. So that's the high pass part of the mid circuit. And then we have an inductor with a capacitor down to ground. So that's the low pass part of the mid circuit, and our mid range connected out of phase. And then on the tweeter in through a capacitor with an inductor down to ground, so second order arrangement, second order on this as well, so 12 dB slopes approximately, and then into our tweeter. So we'll see what values we've got. So starting to take this apart now. One thing I will quickly say is it's very good not to see any resistors in this crossover circuit. That's always a good sign that the drivers are being matched well, chosen well, and they work well together. You're not having to attenuate them or impedance correct them or anything like that. So straight away, that is quite a good sign. So we've got this piece of aluminium here. It goes through everything, sandwiches it all down. Might have to reshape this because our new capacitors are going to be different sizes to these. Okay, so we got a 4.7 on the tweeter, 4.7 microfarad on the tweeter, and then our first cap on the mid-range is a 10. So it's not playing very low, that mid-range, at all. And then we also have another 4.7. Okay. Yeah, that's these inductors look similar size as well, so whether they have the same value. Right, so I'm going to desolder all of this now, take it all apart. So we go through that there, so that might not come off. One thing I will do is renew the wire on this. Get something a bit better on here. That's going through there. Okay, we'll clip that off. Okay. Right, so what we'll do first, we'll measure these inductors. Okay, so this one here first, which is on the tweeter circuit. Let's put HF on there. Right. Expecting a very low inductance on this. So 0.33 millihenry, and its DC resistance is 1 ohm. So 0.33 and 1 ohm. Okay. So we'll do the same with let's do this inductor here. So this was on the mid, and this was our part of our high pass. Okay. So on this we have, yeah, same again, 0.32 and an ohm. So physically they look the same. So I'm not surprised we're getting the same reading. And then we'll check this one as well. So 1.46 millihenry and 2.3 ohms. Right, okay, so this is what we've got. So on our mid circuit we come into a 10. We have this inductor down to ground, 0.2 millihenry. We carry on through to this inductor, 1.45 millihenry, with a 4.7 down to ground. And then on the tweeter circuit, 4.7 and a 0.33 millihenry down to ground. So yeah, that mid-range is kind of quite restricted, which to be expected. It's not big, so yeah, the woofer is doing quite a bit of work actually. And then we've got a small mid helping it out, and a tweeter on the top end to give it the sparkle. So yeah, we need to replace these capacitors, but let's quickly measure those as well. Okay, so with the capacitors, I'm hoping these are quite out of tolerance, and from what Tony tells me, he was having quite erratic sound from these. One of them was playing differently to the other, which we've already seen in the measurements. So yeah, that 4.7 is measuring as 5.8. So yeah, that's reasonably far out. And let's just check this other one. This was the one that was on the tweeter circuit, I think. Again, we're looking for 4.7. 5.5. So yeah, they are reasonably far out. Let's see what we get on the mid. This should be 10. And we are getting 10.9, so not too bad actually. So it'll be interesting to see how the other one compares, but yeah, so I'll order up some new caps. The inductors, they're air core, they're absolutely fine. We'll keep those new components, so there we go. So the other thing we're going to do is redo these grills. I think Tony says he's got a cat, and yeah, cat's obviously taken a liking to these. I'm going to try and find something similar in terms of cloth. We're not just going to cover them in black. Tony would like to keep these pretty authentic looking, original looking. So I'm going to try and match this as best I can. It's going to be quite difficult, but I'll do my best. And then we'll tidy up our nice little badge there. These just fit with Velcro, they're chipboard. So yeah, let's see if we can also make some nice new covers for them. Right, so let's have a look at this mid-range. As we can see, it's all come away all the way around. The paper cone's still okay, so I'm hoping we can clean that up and glue it back in. I have actually seen these on eBay, so they're obviously available second hand. But yeah, cone's nice and centralised, so that's a good start. Okay, I'll wait for that to dry. So the only thing that bothers me a little bit is this section here. You probably can't see that very well. It's kind of collapsed in a little bit. I'm going to keep folding this cone around, but I can stretch that up a bit. Yeah, and we might be able to get that back in there. Once it's glued, the cone will pull it up a bit. Got the same problem there as well. I mean, it's literally just PVC. Okay, so we'll try and glue this and see what happens. Yeah, so all I'm going to use is just some bog standard PVA, nothing exotic. That's all, just with a small brush. And this will dry clear, so you won't see any of this afterwards. Yeah, so there's little bits of it that are still stuck in, which is good. That's keeping the cone centered for us. And this PVA glue soaks into the paper well. and it should stick to the cone or the plastic pretty well as well. Yeah, so we are glued in still here and there, which is good. I know I'm probably, looks like I'm being a bit barbaric with this, but it's okay. Let's get a bit along there as well if we can. Okay, push that in. Yeah, I think we're going to be alright. I'm just going to wipe it with some glue around here. I say the stuff dries clear. And then once it, a bit later on, starts to tack up a bit, I can push that cone in a bit more, and hopefully it'll be stabilised. Let's try and get a bit under there. Bit under there as well. Okay. Right, we'll let that dry and see where we're at later. I don't like doing that, it's very tricky. So there's the dust cap off. So this, hopefully we can glue back down onto the paper and then get our dust cap in. What I don't want to do is get any muck inside our bobbin there. So I'll be very careful with this. It might take a few attempts to get that back in, although it does want to go, so that's yeah, that's a good sign. Okay, let's see if we can stretch it a little bit. Yeah, it's already sitting down nicely. go. Yep, free as anything. So what we'll do, I'm going to run some glue around that, because I don't want that letting go again. So again, just PVA. Just round where it joins. You see this is going to dry clear. Okay, and then what I want to do is get this back on. I can actually reheat this and stick it back down, but I'll do it with glue. A decent amount around there. Right, okay. Try and get this in the right place. Yeah, it's not bad. Not bad. I'll say this dries clear, so right, there we go. Lovely jubbly.